Israeli Ambassador Dan Ashbel, welcome.
Thank you.
Finnish Foreign Minister Erkki Tuomioja said today sanctions against Israel must be an option to help solve the Gaza conflict. Your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are a bit of sorrow. Why does the Foreign Minister of Finland concentrate on sanctions against the attacked party? And he says it at the end of his interview that, well, we don't deal with Hamas. So since you don't deal with Hamas, you cannot do any sanctions against Hamas. And while the European Union, in its meeting of the foreign ministers last week, said very clearly that one of the ways of dealing with this crisis is the disarmament of Hamas, of the terrorist groups. I would be happy if this would also be made known to the public in Finland.
The previous war in Gaza 5 years ago lasted 23 days and demanded over 1,000 civilian casualties. We are in the same numbers, pretty much in the same numbers now. How long is this going to last?
Well, I am not a person who makes prophecies, and it can stop at the moment when Hamas stops firing. You know that even today, when Hamas asked for a ceasefire, asked for a stop of fire, we agreed. They already shelled several rockets on Israeli towns and villages. Again, while they were asking for the ceasefire, we replied positively. We held our fire. If they don't shoot, we don't shoot.
Why is the civilian death toll on the Palestinian side so high?
The civilian death toll is so high because Hamas does not care for its civilians. On the contrary, it uses its civilians as human shields.
What evidence do you have that
we have a lot of evidence for that. You can see it. You can see it there is footage running on the net as much as you want. You can hear Hamas leaders calling their people to stand on the roofs of the buildings of their headquarters. And we know it, and they say it quite clear. They say, we love death as much as the Jews like life. And this is one of the major problems. If they would invest the money that they got from all around the world in improving the infrastructure for their population, probably there would be far less casualties. And on top of that, some of the casualties are caused by Hamas themselves.
But there are people running away from the fire also.
Definitely there are people running away, and let me say it in a very clear way. I mean, we are not interested in killing people. This is not the policy of the State of Israel. It is the policy of Hamas.
Many of the internal refugees have been killed.
Excuse me?
Many of the internal refugees have been killed.
Yes, and I say once again, Hamas says clearly in its charter that it wants to destroy Israel and kill all Jews. This is not a policy that is accepted by any Israeli government. And if Hamas would not begin shelling thousands of rockets on civilian population in Israel, yes, that is protected. Let me say more than that. Israel developed weapons in order to protect its civilians. Hamas uses civilians in order to protect its weapons.
What about the Geneva Conventions and your obligation to protect civilians?
We are doing our utmost in order to protect civilians. Let me make one thing clear. This is a conflict, and the conflict, as long as Hamas is there, Hamas has one aim: to destroy Israel and to kill as many Jews as possible. If possible, to kill all of them. If Hamas would really be disarmed and the Gaza Strip would be demilitarized, the population of Gaza could live a good life, a very good life. We began with it in 2005, when in 2005 we withdrew totally from the Gaza district.
But let's be honest here, they haven't been very successful killing Israelis. the Hamas.
You would like them to be more successful?
No, of course not. But if I say about the
Yes,
more than
because
1,000 Palestinian
the
civil
point
victims.
is, look, if you make this count, then let's do it very simply. And I don't like this comparison, but far more Germans were killed during World War II than Brits. So were the British to blame for World War II? No, they were not. And I began saying something about the aims and the attitude of Israel. In 2005, when we left Gaza, we built terminals for crossing the borders that if you would have them in Lappeenranta, probably the waiting time would be much shorter. They are being bombed by Hamas. When we delivered during this conflict gas and diesel and products into Gaza, the crossings where the trucks are arriving are bombed by Hamas. So when we speak of civilian suffering, the suffering is caused by Hamas. Hamas is the one that hit the electricity lines that lead electricity from Israel into Gaza.
But at this very situation, where should the people in the Gaza Strip run? Gaza is smaller than Espoo in Finland, densely populated. Where should they hide?
Look, the issue of where the civil population should hide is first and foremost the responsibility of the authority in that place, as the issue of protecting the Israeli population is first and foremost the responsibility of the government of Israel. Hamas, who is running this place since 2007, has the responsibility for its population. What it does is it uses the population, and it is encouraging actually the death of civilians because they know that once civilians come to harm, the question is being posed on Israel. Nobody asks Hamas.
If we talk about the blockade of Gaza, how would you estimate that how successful the blockade has been the last 7 years of?
I can tell you one thing. When we left Gaza, there was no blockade. On the contrary, as I said, border crossings were opened both for goods and for people to cross in and out of Gaza. The blockade began when Hamas began again, if you want, shooting rockets on Israel.
So
now we tried to avoid letting in building materials because we suspected that they would be used in order to build tunnels against Israel.
How successful have you been in building the tunnels?
Look, we tried, and we were pressured by the international community. You must let cement in. You must let building materials in because they want to build houses. They want to build hospitals. What did they do? With 4,670 truckloads, thousands of tons of cement were not used in order to build hospitals, houses, schools. No, they were used in order to build tunnels that infiltrated into Israel and that were aimed at attacking civilian population in Israel.
So the blockade has been a total failure?
The blockade has been partially problematic. On the other hand, it was not a failure in that respect that we prevented more weapons to come into this area, to prevent more explosives to come into this area. If it would be open as they demand, so we would be facing thousands of rockets made in Iran, exported from Syria or from North Korea or whatever. Now we succeeded, and you also in the Finnish television, you reported on intercepting of ships that were with loads of explosives and rockets that were aimed at Israel. You don't need them for protecting the population. You don't need these rockets for protecting the population. It is only in order to cause havoc and terror in Israel.
What do you think are the main reasons for the popularity of Hamas in Gaza?
I don't know if they are popular or if they are threatening. And again, you can see on the web if they are threatening with the population. They are threatening people with their lives. If you are not acting according to what they think is appropriate, God forbid, be a Christian in Gaza. If you are a Christian in Gaza, your life is in danger because you are an infidel. So it's a terror organization that terrorizes not only Israel, but terrorizes the Palestinians as well.
When does Israel stop the settlement buildings in West Bank?
Look, maybe once you will invite me to talk about the West Bank. There are no settlements in Gaza. Not one settlement in Gaza. We left Gaza totally. We uprooted 10,000 people from there. We took out all our military. And what did we get in response? We got in response a daily attack and a daily barrage of rockets. So do you suggest that we do the same in the West Bank and get the daily barrage and daily rockets? So we have to consider very carefully what we are doing. We have proven in the past that we can, and if we see a chance for peace, we have already dismantled settlements. We have taken all our soldiers out. And what did we get in response? So we have to be very careful.
In this conflict, how would you define the victory for Israel?
I'm not looking for victory. I'm looking for peace. We are looking for finally having the opportunity to live in peace. I was born in this state. I have 3 sons, 4 grandchildren. My granddaughter yesterday in her kindergarten had to hide under a table because of an alarm of rockets. I don't want this to go on. I want us to live in peace in this region, all of us, Israelis, Palestinians, and all our neighbors. We want to live in peace.
Ambassador Dan Ashbel, thank you for the interview.
You're welcome.